Hello, everybody, and welcome to Behind the Camera. So here we are with episode 91 of Behind the Camera. And before we get into this midweek special edition, first of all, I would just like to say a huge thank you to everyone who has checked out my brand new book, Behind the Camera, The Journey So Far. I honestly cannot tell you how much I appreciate everyone who has bought it, read it, and taken the time to send me feedback. The response has genuinely blown me away, so thank you all so much. If you'd like to grab a copy for yourself, the book is available now on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle, and it's also free to read if you have Kindle Unlimited. As always, if you'd also like to see more of the behind the scenes side of the podcast, you can also support the show on Patreon. For £3 a month, you'll get access to extra content, including a Patreon exclusive series, your name added to the wall of patrons at the end of every episode of Behind the Camera, and much more. And finally, if you'd like to follow the show across social media, you can find my link tree in the description, and that'll take you to Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, and also the merch store. But now, getting into today's conversation. From his lead role in Hardy Bucks and the show's incredible journey from a small web series to being picked up by RTE and eventually becoming a feature film, for many in the Irish audience listening, my guest today will need no introduction. Joining me today is Owen Colgan. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, but now, here's the interview. Owen, welcome to Behind the Camera podcast. Pleasure to have you on the show today. How are we doing?
Very good. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. I'm coming from sunny Mayo today.
Yeah, and in sunny County Down myself here. So for those who are watching, you'll probably see me move about a lot because of the rays of sun that are catching my eyes here through my blinds. But we move. So yeah, Owen, been doing comedy for such a long time, including Hardy Bucks. So I think Hardy Bucks is always a good starting point, really, I think, for any conversation like this. So this started, was it 2008? Am I right in saying, as
2008,
webisodes?
yeah.
2008.
I think you're pretty right in that one, yeah. 2008, we started off with demos.
How did that begin? Like, where did the idea come for Hardy Bucks, especially as like a sort of web series?
The idea came from the two main lads, the Viper and Eddie Durkin. They were doing a course in Ballyfermot and they had to do a weekend course or weekend project or something. So they came back to the west of Ireland and they went to Charlestown, which is like a town over. And they did like a little short video of Eddie Durkin walking around and the Viper was filming it. And then I think they showed that to the people in the class, and the people in the class were like, oh, you should enter that into this competition called Storyland, which was like an online RTE competition. The first year of its kind. So so then we started shooting vignettes. They asked Eddie Durkin asked me to be in it, and the Viper asked a few people to be in it. So then we had about 5 or 6 people that were acting on camera. And basically they just said, just do whatever you want there on camera. So we all sort of thought, like, what's the silliest, probably, in my case, I was like, what's the most ignorant this character can be? So that's where my character came from. And we all kind of created our own sort of characters, but the world was created by, let's say, the Viper, who's Chris, and Eddie Durkin, who's Martin.
Yeah, like, and because obviously, like, when you watch the sort of webisodes and then going into the series, that was commissioned by RTE, it's almost as if it's just you guys with a camera. And was there much that was like scripted, or was it very kind of much a lot of ad lib going into like the episodes?
There was like because when we got on Storyland, because we had to have an idea what we were filming that day. There'd be scripts, but we would look at them and go, I don't know, this isn't the way I'd probably say that.
Yeah.
But the actual idea, like for example, the Mitzi Turbo Cup, that was like planned to have a Mitzi. We didn't just turn up and everyone was down there, like, so they had planned extras and planned events to be happening that day. But then they would say to us, right, this next scene is going to be, let's say it's going to be you guys looking over there at lads partying and you're annoyed that they're partying. So then we just improvised around that. So it was pretty much 100% improvisation up to the point of when it got onto TV.
Yeah.
But obviously that's the good thing about improv is there's a lot of gold there. But then the bad thing is there's a lot of like nonsense that people never saw. So we just like might be a scene that we filmed for 2 hours that'd be cut down to like a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
A lot of stuff on the cutting room floor, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. Because obviously these episodes were really short and fit for purpose, but like you don't really see what goes into it and how much crack was probably had as a result. And do you
Oh
ever look
yeah.
back and think, this could have went in or should have went in to each particular episode, or is it just everything was kind of fine and what you have as like sort of outtakes and sort of behind the scenes footage is kind of best kept there?
I think the stuff that wasn't put in it was probably not put in it for a reason,
Yeah.
because sometimes you're doing stuff and you're like, oh, this is funny. But then you look back at it and you're like, actually, no, that's not too funny because I was maybe trying too hard or maybe there was something happening. So I think the stuff that was picked to be put into the episodes was definitely the best stuff. And maybe we had rose tinted glasses about what we were saying was all funny, but there was a lot of crap that never saw the light of day. But I think it's better to keep that wherever that is, maybe buried in a pile somewhere. But no, I think we're all fairly happy with how it went. But there was definitely times we were kind of saying to the director or the editor, "Oh, would you mind putting in that other scene that we did because I thought that was funny." So there was definitely a bit of play in between there. But once we saw the final product, then with all the different characters and the inserts that they put into it, like a Pat Kenny and all the lads, that kind of it all felt like it made sense. So that wasn't really our sort of vision though. That was more like mostly the Viper, and Eddie Durkin was kind of sitting in on the edits too.
Yeah.
For those.
Yeah. So I suppose in that sense, then, your job, you probably had the best job at all by just getting like, here's the scene, you just act it out. And yeah, I get what you mean when like sometimes you think you have something that's like comedy gold, but then you kind of really realize your immediate audience being like your mates who you're filming with versus the wider audience who's going to see it's like,
Exactly.
are they really going to understand this kind of crack? Does it really translate to that wider audience? And I mean, obviously, with sort of how well Hardy Bucks generally has done, it's safe to say that like it's definitely got that kind of translates well over the entire island of Ireland.
Thanks, but like I think the thing is like you don't really know in the moment till you look back at it if it's going to be funny or not. And also, we weren't really thinking about like the way nowadays if you're uploading something to social media, you're thinking about the audience or whatever. But in them days, there was no social media, so we were just like, let's try to make each other laugh in this little tiny circle of friends. And that was kind of it. So we were almost performing for the people that were directly in front of us instead of the people that were on the internet. So I think in that sense, it was more like, I think there was a good energy to it,
Yeah.
So I think that definitely benefited it. But the whole landscape has changed now, as you know yourself. So we're more thinking about audiences online and how you can appeal to them. And then you're kind of like worried about offending people. So once you start putting those filters on yourself, it's like trying to keep a bull inside a fence or something like that. You're holding them back a small bit. But if in them days, there was nothing stopping us from just saying the most outlandish stuff we could think of. And like, at least then we knew, okay, maybe don't say that again, but you can kind of get close to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like the earlier days of YouTube, like, in the early 2000s, 2010s.
The Wild West.
Oh God. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Like you could put absolutely anything up there. And then whenever, like say, social media became a thing, even before everyone started getting offended, it was, it's just, they made it a little bit more difficult because content creation was just the thing then. And so like when you mentioned like filters, like did you find that whenever RT picked up the show that might have been like the start of having to kind of filter yourselves, and there was like a little bit more or a little bit less of that kind of creative license compared to when you were doing the web show?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's nothing to do with anyone's fault. It's just that when you're probably, well, when we were going onto the TV, they were like, their plan is to sort of sell it to as many people as they can. They want as many people watching as they can. So in order to do that, you have to kind of make it maybe a bit more bland or maybe a bit more plain, and you're worried about offending people then when you're on TV because the advertisers are there and they're like, well, we're not going to put our name to that thing because you were saying this, But so when it went on to TV, it went more from improvising craziness to more like scripted acting, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's why if you watch some of the episodes, we look like sort of D-list porn stars in some of the acting. In the sense that like we'll run onto a scene and we're like, where's Eddie gone now? And it's just like sort of it's too set up at times. But I think, for lads that didn't have any acting experience, we did all right.
For sure, yeah.
But definitely the creative license, it felt a bit more constricted on the TV stuff. But I suppose that's the price you pay for being able to tell people that you're on TV,
For
Maybe.
sure.
I think that's the way it is, but there might be another way around it.
No, I agree with what you're saying though, because like at the end of the day, you've gone from like a sort of somewhat of a local audience or so much like who's really finding you on YouTube kind of thing
Yeah,
versus like, there's an audience now with a purpose, whether it be national, multinational, and as you mentioned before, humor doesn't always translate.
yeah,
And the Irish certainly have a way with words, and certain
yeah.
words are a bit more liberal with certain words, and it's just kind of the way how different
Well, do you know
cultures and
what? Do you
societies
know what?
go.
One of the things I was doing, Andrew, was one of the things that I was doing back then. When I was like talking some of the stuff, crazy stuff, was I was like thinking to myself, I would love if an American person was watching this or an English person and they didn't understand if it was real or not. So if
Yeah.
I could trick them into believing it was real, then I think that would be enough to sort of make it funny, that kind of way.
Yeah.
So there was a few times I think that American people saw some of the clips we did and they believed that the videos were like real or something like that. So I think that was a win for us as well,
Oh
because
yeah.
it meant that it was maybe just on the right line of being crazy, but believable enough too.
Hmm. Definitely, and I think even like to say for like an Irish audience, there's probably that you could argue that there is probably that element where people might think it's real because you know in the streets of Castletown, where obviously you guys wouldn't have closed the streets down. It would have just been cameras, say vipers across the street, zoomed in, shouting back and forward, whatever, and
Yeah.
that was just part of the scene. And whoever was nearby, and whether it added
That
to
was
the
that
effect or
was the
not,
beauty. I think there was a lot of beauty in that too, and I think they used to make movies like that years ago, maybe in Italy or somewhere, but
Yeah.
they'd use real people who were just walking around the place. Like, so a lot of the people that you see in it, and probably myself included, just because we were in the general vicinity around that time, they were like, "Oh, do you want to be in this episode?" So obviously the person, if they had a bit of character, that would add a lot to it. But
Hmm.
there's some scenes in the Hardy books that weren't even planned. Like there's a scene where one of the characters, Cowboy, comes out of a bookies, and he was actually just in there, just putting on a few bets. There's another scene where a fella pulls up in a car and he says, "Are you doing a bit of videoing?" And he's not planned either. He's just
Yeah.
like, he just sees the cameras. So I think that definitely added to it. But nowadays, with everyone with smartphones and everything, it's a bit trickier to get that across because everyone's a bit more cautious as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think that kind of element is something that might have made season five to be difficult if that was to ever come to fruition?
You take that back. No, if season five, it's hard to know. Like if it ever was to come back, I don't know. Like it, I think it'd have to change because the world is different than when we were filming it back then. So I
Yeah.
think I think where the lads are based would have to change. Like I think one of them before was saying we should set the whole thing in space.
Oh.
As in like it's like Star Trek, but it's just like the lads are in space trying to save planet, like maybe from an alien invasion or something. I think that would work better. Or else if the lads have left Castletown and something else is happening, I feel like that's the only way it could work because I know nostalgia is a very powerful thing, but I don't know it would work because we're all like in our 40s now too. You'd have to have storylines that match that too. Like divorces and mortgages and all that sort of
Mhm.
shit. You know?
Yeah, definitely. Like, and obviously with this sort of change in the world, like we mentioned, like smartphones, that's kind of people are going to be more wise to it, and especially now that you kind of have had that audience from being on RTE and Netflix as well. People are going to kind of they'll recognize you, see with the cameras and be like, and it gets to that point where almost everybody would want to be involved, and
Yeah,
it kind of falls into that sort of small Irish town thing where people aren't afraid to approach you if you're doing something that's a bit out of the ordinary, like filming in the middle of the street. To be like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" There's that kind
yeah,
of gentle curiosity that people have, and I kind of feel like if you were to be filming a season five in the same format, it would it could get messy in that sense.
it could. Yeah, and also I think it'd be awful funny if you did like a really high production valued like studio like Star Trek, but like
Uh-huh.
just imagine like the Viper or Stateside walking through a door and he's like saying, "Am I your father?" Or no, what's that Darth Vader line? "I am your father,"
I'm
something
your
like that.
father, yeah.
something like that. I think there's definitely a lot to be done with that, but you'd never know. Like there's a lot of potential to what you can do nowadays too. So,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, if it was to be set back in Castletown, you'd have to have smartphones in it. You'd have to be talking about technology and all the different things and IT and all that sort of stuff. You'd have to work all that into it too, But it's definitely possible. Like, who knows? If Netflix is watching this podcast, then we're looking for money off you, lads.
Let me tell you, they fucking better be watching this.
They better be. They will be after this, after that mention.
And speaking of quotes as well, like, would you say, looking back on like what you've done with RT versus the webisodes, out of the two of them, which would you say is more quotable?
I'd say the RTE Storyland was probably the most quotable because there's some lines in that are just, they were planned, but they weren't overly scripted. Like, I think my favorite one is it's just a carrot in a bag of water. Like that one, I think it's just, I've told people that from like Venezuela, and I've told them like from Brazil and Turkish lads who I've met, if I'm out talking to them or drinking, whatever.
Yeah.
I've told them like what I'm up to, and then I told them that scene and that story and the carrot in the bag of water. And normally they burst out laughing because that line is just funny, I think. But I think the RT Storyland is the best quotable lines. I think so too, yeah. Like it's hard to know, like, because I don't think we planned any of those lines either, but I just, for some reason, like your old lady has worms. It's such a weird dig to have something, It's just a weird kind of slagging thing to do. It's almost like you're slagging someone off, but you're not doing it too well,
Yeah,
100%. So I'd say the storyline stuff is the richest of lines.
Yeah, because like the delivery of the lines as well is like just next level as well. And when you watch the episode, you can tell that like there's a lot more improvisation that goes into it. And I'm sure you get this all the time, but there's this one clip that comes up all the time with yourself, and it's like fighting in the mirror outside a club in a town, Langen Village.
Oh yeah, Langen Village. Like, yeah, so random because the night before I've been drinking Linden Village.
Yeah.
Like, so that's probably why it was in my mind somewhere.
And was that like done one take, fully improvised as well? Just
that was done. I think that was done in the first take, but it was more a case of like the hours before that, or even the day before. I think I remember we were filming that week, and a few days, the first couple of days of filming, we were very crap. We were like, oh, Jesus, maybe we don't have it anymore. Maybe we've lost it. But like anything, the first couple of hours, even the first day or two, it's always a bit, crap, or you're a bit slow. Even if you go down the bog, you're slow foot and turf for the first couple of hours. But then you get into a bit of a rhythm and then a pattern. And I remember that morning I was a bit hungover, but I was kind of feeling that cheekiness. And I seen some of my friends on the cameras behind me, and I was like, I'm going to make those lads laugh. I had an idea in my head. So then I just spouted it out. But yeah, we didn't think it was going to get to where it got to, like. So it was just, how can you be absurd and obnoxious as possible in the moment?
Because like I can tell you for sure, like that was definitely the first exposure to Hardy Bucks that I had, and it was like a friend of mine just said, watch this video and then we'll watch all the series. And then that's exactly what happened, and I think it's like kind of one of those things where, like, it's like an accidental gateway. You do this because you're just, like you say, you're trying to make your mates laugh behind the camera, and then all of a sudden it's just one of the things that you become like more known for after like so many years.
Well, the amount of people that, if I'm driving around, well, not as much now, but like years ago, you'd have so many people driving past. Even still, actually, the other day I was at Tipperary, someone like come up to me and goes, "Am I your father?" And I was like, it took me a minute to get it, even, because it's a random, when it's out of context, it's very random. And also then I was in Ballina there a few months ago, and some fella drove past and shouted, "Your ability has worms." And I was with a friend at the time, and he was like, what was that all about? And he hadn't seen that episode or heard of that line. So I had to tell him that my mother does in fact not have worms, if we can put that on record.
Yeah, that goes to show context is important for these things. Like, context is always important, because otherwise it's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. I got my cousin from America. He's big into it, and he's always like, he's a very much like, he works in a casino in America, but he's a very social creature. So he's always out meeting people, and he used to go to this bar all the time, like in NFL, bar, like as in like some of the NFL players would go in there and they'd be
Oh,
drinking and all
yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So he'd be in there with them, and he'd be introducing them to the Hardy Book, showing them clips on the phone. And sometimes he said they'd be laughing their asses off and all that sort of stuff. But I got him into one of the episodes as well. He plays the Block, I think his name is. I think his name is the Block, yeah. But he's a funny character too. So I'm trying to maybe get him into the next season as well. He's like the big burly guy that arrests, I think, the Viper, or catches the Viper and puts his hand behind his back.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So then whenever then it came to being sanctioned by RTE, what was the conversation like, being like, guys, we want to pick you
How
up
much?
here, and
How much you got for us?
Fair.
And where do we get it? And who do we have to kiss to get it? That was what I was thinking. No, to be honest, it was more like, oh, Jesus, we're going to be on TV. This is amazing. Finally, my family will respect me. That sort of thing. Telling everybody we're going to be on TV. Very proud of the fact that we're going to be on TV. And then it was like organized as to the money side of things had to be organized.
Yeah.
Obviously, and then the scripts, all that sort of stuff had to be organized. The time and the crew, everybody had to come down to Mayo to get it, or like to figure out dates, to block off the dates. And once all that was kind of finalized, it took a long time though. So it took like probably 6 months, 7 months.
Okay.
So it got to a point where we were like, is this actually going to happen? Because it was taking so long. But then once the crew was down there and we're filming, it felt we were back in the hot seat.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's, sorry, I don't know if that answered the question.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like, and so then whenever then you were filming originally then on RTE, was it really weird still having that kind of same handheld camera, mockumentary style footage, but obviously backed with like a full filming crew at the same time?
Well, what happened was actually, Andrew, was they changed it. So we started off with the Sony handheld cameras, 2 or 3 of those that they got from their college in Ballyfermot. But then when it went on to TV, there was all these big rigs. So there was a fella, like big cameraman. He was like walking around with a rig like this kind of, and then there was another camera. And then there was like sound guys like doing the sound. Big shout out to Paddy Downey. But so the crew was much bigger, but the cameras and everything were much more slick.
Mm-hmm.
But they did it in a way that tried to make it feel like it was less slick than it was. But even when it was on TV, it looked a bit too polished, I think.
Yeah.
For the world that we'd already created. I think the whole point of the kind of Hardy Books was that just some random layabouts were actually recording them lads. So randomers were just recording these layabouts. So it kind of, both worlds were very amateur style. I think that was a better style. But I guess when you get to TV, you kind of have to up the game, otherwise people won't watch it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%. But then on that as well, so once you got to season 3 on TV, it was almost as if like there was a bit of a reboot in terms of the show, and
that was the year we nearly got sued by RTE.
Oh, right. Because I've always wondered about this, because end of season 2, it's Eddie goes to America because Big Mick's had enough of him, and he's just like, I've got your ticket here, now fucking on you go here. Like, he's like, I don't even want to go. But then season 3 starts, and it's like a reintroduction. So obviously, like what you said there, it's like sounds like it was done intentionally. But was there a sort of a bit of a backlash from seasons 1 and 2, or was it kind of?
I think it was a case of trying to find our feet for the first 2 seasons and trying to figure out how we go from this improvised show to this scripted thing, because we couldn't go to RTE and say, oh, we're just going to make up everything. Can we get the money off? They had to see something on paper, but like, so then they're tied into that script. They're like, this is the script you told us you're going to deliver. But I think by the time we got to season 3, we were like, the script is just, it's not doing it, and obviously the way we worked in the past was we'd have a script. We'd be like, okay, this is what needs to happen in the scene, but we're going to get to that. We're going to explain that in our own crazy way, and that'll make it much funnier. So I think by the time season 3 happened, we just said, look, just say whatever you want to say, and we'll deal with the consequences after. And I think there was a point where we sent an episode, or they sent an episode to RTE saying, this is the episode here. And they were like, this is nothing to do with the script. This is completely like 95% non-script. We're going to sue you. Something along those lines.
Oh, right, okay.
But then it turned out that they were like, actually, no, it's actually quite funny. We're just can you put a few things in that you've said in the script? So I think they met in the middle, and then that's why maybe season 3 felt a bit more like the old stuff. And I actually, to be honest, I haven't even seen any of it, so I can't really comment on
Okay.
how it turned out, because I just don't like to look. I don't really like to look at myself on camera, and I just feel like, because they're my friends, and it got to a certain point of we've been filming so much, I couldn't really see it anymore. Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah.
I
Oh
couldn't
yeah,
step
yeah.
away from it or something. It was almost like I don't know what it was. It was like watching, you're looking in the mirror too much or something.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's like when you kind of once it's done, and it's kind of like,
Yeah,
especially you're doing it for yourself. The end
like
product
if
is for the
if you're hanging
audience.
out with your mates and you just go to the pub and you have a great conversation, and you're like, right, let me look at that again on camera the next day. You're like, okay, and then you do it again, and after a while, you're like, no, just go to the pub and have the crack. You don't need to be looking
Yeah.
at it. So that's the way I was dealing with it, but everyone has their own way. But that's the way. I don't know what season 3 or season 4 was even about, to be quite honest.
No,
I know I
totally
do. I
fair.
mean, I do, but I don't know actually how it turned out.
No, totally fair. Like I have to say, because you could tell it was that whole big sort of jump. There was a big difference in terms of
Mm,
more story driven over the 2 seasons. A lot
yeah,
more. I say a lot more character development as opposed to
yeah.
like where it
Well,
was a kind of, because in the first 2 seasons, this is what I really really like about it, is that you can go and watch any episode, and even the webisodes as well. You can go in and watch any episode, and you don't really need the context behind what's going on, because
yeah,
you can pick it up fairly easily, and
yeah, yeah. Once you know the
especially
general outline, if it's a few lads living in a small town trying to make money, the rest is looks after itself.
yeah, exactly. And we touched on this before. When it came to sort of developing the characters, was that something that you sort of developed as you went along with recording from right from the beginning all the way through, or was it something you kind of always had like a full outline in your head once you guys started?
No, we just had these ideas of characters that we thought were funny. We're all
Hmm.
hanging out together, so we all kind of knew each other's humor. Um, the fact that the camera was there made things more exciting, because then we're like, I'm going to say something about your private life that's going to be now on camera. Not in a sort of throw you under the bus, but in enough of a way to make things a bit more cheeky, so that you're looking at me, and but you can't fully react to it because the
Yeah.
camera's there as well. So I think they created a lovely tension. But the story arc of the characters, that was something that RT was telling us, and something that people kept saying, we need to develop your characters for the TV stuff, because it's going to be over like a longer format. It's going to be going
Hmm.
from 5 minutes to 23 minutes.
Yeah.
So story arcs and all that stuff, characters apparently is very important. But I still don't really like that, to be honest. But I know it's a necessary thing you have to do for movies and stuff. But
Yeah.
I just felt like that naturally enough, the characters will find out. They'll find a story arc if you keep filming us. Naturally enough, our lifestyles will change, so that, like, because day to day we're all changing our personalities and stuff. So I felt like the characters would naturally create their own story arc. But I guess for television, they know better. Like, that's probably the way it has to go.
Yeah, definitely. And with that as well, you guys had the movie Hardy Bucks Ride Again, and
Yeah,
like, was that a part of the original deal with RT? They wanted to sort of sanction a few seasons and a movie, or was that sort of success based or results based
that was
off the
something
show?
that was results based. And there's actually Martin Maloney, who plays Eddie Durkin. His brother-in-law, his name is Mike Cocaine, and which is a crazy surname. But he was like was living in England, moved to Ireland, and he would kind of became the producer of the Hardy books. And then he was like saying at the end of season, whatever season, I don't know what season it was, he goes, "Oh, we might be making a movie with RTE and uh, Universal, with the Irish football coinciding with that." So that was the story.
Yeah.
So the fact that Ireland qualified actually opened up the door for us to make a movie. So it was good timing. But again, it was one of those things where I was telling everyone we were going to make a movie, and then it didn't happen. And then it was like, oh no, we're going to do this other thing. And then the Euros came up, and it all melted in perfectly. So it wasn't pre-planned. It was one of those things that was probably decided 6 or 9 months before the actual
You know.
Irish team went over there to play football. And then we wrote the script, and then it became that road movie, The Hardy Bucks Ride Again.
Hmm. So what was that like then, filming a movie compared to like what you guys have
Best
been
holiday
used to
ever, to
filming?
be honest.
Really?
That's what we kept saying to each other. It's the best holiday ever. And then the producer was like, "You're actually meant to be working, lads." We're like, oh yeah, that thing. But it was unbelievable because we went from Mayo in 2 camper vans and a Hiace, and we drove from Mayo to, I think, is it Wicklow or Wexford, and then we took the ferry across, and then we went down and we took the Channel Tunnel over to France,
Mhm.
and we took a detour to Amsterdam. We took a few bad turns, ended up in Amsterdam. And then we went to, where else did we go? I think we went to, where was next? Well, then Poland was next, I guess. Yeah, so we went then to Poznan. So it was like it was like a road movie. It was fairly intense. Like we'd be filming every day, and whatever town we stopped off in, we'd have a few beers and just have the crack. But it was a great bond up between us and the lads.
Yeah.
And we knew that the final kind of sort of hurdle would be getting to Poznan and filming those last few scenes there. But there was some crazy stuff that happened. Like the red light district, or the blue light district, I should say, in Amsterdam was a crazy situation that when I'm telling people, they're like, did that happen? And I'm like, Jesus, yeah, it did actually happen. Poznan itself was crazy because there was Irish people everywhere.
Mhm.
So it was like being back in Ireland, but everyone was in party mode. And the Irish and the Polish, they had already been getting on really well for the last few weeks. So there was like, everyone was meeting up in the squares. And I remember everyone was doing this kind of thing where they'd go, "Ooh," and they'd kind of go down and then they'd go, "Way," and then there'd be fellas up on horses drinking, and there'd be just shoes being thrown around the place. There'd be Polish and Irish kissing each other. And it was almost like all those years of the Polish and Irish working together, this was like their stag do or something.
Yeah, and like the scenes there almost kind of write themselves in a way, kind of
Yeah.
fitting in with the chaos of everything else. And so did you guys have like a strict timeline of how long you were to be filming and how long you had in each location, or was it sort of, did you just have a little bit of leeway either side, especially because you guys were driving the whole time?
Well, no, we had to. We had to have certain scenes shot in the movie.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it wouldn't have made sense.
Yeah.
So we had to have the Amsterdam stuff. We had to have the Poznan stuff. We had to have like what other bits? Like the highest, or sorry, the caravan breaking down on the bypass in Europe somewhere. So we had to have those definitive scenes, and then we also needed the bits in between. So it wasn't that it was strict on like schedule, but we had to, every single day we had to film for probably at least 4 or 5 hours, and we also had to drive because we had to be on the move
Mhm.
almost every day. So it wasn't like we were just sitting back and chilling all the time. We were pretty much
Yeah.
moving the whole time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think you would do another movie, like even whether it be Hardy Bucks related or not? Would you film another movie again? Do you think?
Definitely. Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
love to. You mean like with the lads, or you mean just generally?
I suppose both, really. I suppose, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, like I would love to do like something with the lads, but also I did a few movies since. I did one actually up in Oma called The Spin. Check it out. It's in all good cinemas. It's got Maureen Higgins in it and Kimberly Wyatt, the girl from the Pussycat Dolls.
Oh,
Um, so very random. But what else? I've been on one or two other kind of short films since then. So
mhm.
trying to get it. Yeah, the acting it's very exciting, and I'd like to get into it a bit more.
Yeah, and like obviously, like going outside of playing Buzz, like into sort of different characters, like is that something that like excites you and something you want to do more? Is like play different characters, but like also kind of keep this sort of element of yourself in your roles as well?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely. I would love to do one or two other things. Like if I could do like let's say 2 more movies in my lifetime that
Hmm.
people were like, oh, they were brilliant movies, and you showed a different side of your personality, then I would die a happy man then, So
Hmm.
still have like I think I have 2 more great movies to do that I really want to just have on my CV when I'm older and I'm talking to my grandkids and I'm saying, look at this series here, Hardy Books. Well, I was more than just a lad taking down his pants every second episode. Um, but yeah, so that would be the plan.
Hmm.
But we're getting there. I'm doing a little movie this weekend, or sorry, this week in Dublin. So um, there's a lot of stuff happening, in the background. But
Yeah.
it's not as easy. It's not quite so easy to make a good movie because there's so many parts to it. You obviously have to have the good script, and then you need a good solid crew. And even if everybody's working in the same direction, it still can happen that it's not great. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of magic and luck involved. think that's what the Hardy books had at the time too. We had a lot of luck, magic, youthful ignorance, and youthful energy as well, which is a big thing, and just excitement to make stuff. That's the main thing, you know.
Definitely, yeah. And I think, like, like you say, the cohesion is like one of the most important things that you can
Yeah,
have, because I think, if you're in front of a director, they're telling you what to do. As the actor, you have to really believe in it as well. Like, you
you
have to kind
do.
of be able to embody it. Otherwise, it's just, you can as the sort of casual, even the casual viewer, you can kind of tell when an actor's either just not into it or there for the payday, essentially. Like, as you see
Yeah,
some of the muck that comes out these days.
yeah, that's it. You see, I suppose when you get to a level of maybe some of the top boys, like I don't know, Tom Cruise or whoever else, like it's probably nearly impossible to actually do a good movie anymore because you've got that much money that, if a scene doesn't go well, you're kind of like, sure, who cares? You've got
Yeah.
them, you're going to get the money anyways, and they're going to edit it in a way. But if I don't know, I think youth is a big thing. When you're young and you want to make something, I think it's very important that you do it, because there's just something about being young, I think, and I don't know, there's like an energy about young people that helps when you're doing creative stuff. It makes it feel more real or raw, maybe.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe the
definitely.
money side of things is probably a thing too. Like if you're rich, it's hard to get out of the bed in the morning.
For sure, yeah, and I think as well what you're saying, like whenever you are kind of younger or newer into the game, the element of diversity in terms of what roles you're playing is something that's way more accessible. Like using Tom Cruise as an example, he's been doing the same sort of characters for the guts of 35 years, and to the point where it's like he can still do the same character and it's fine. You know
Yeah.
what to expect going in, but like, with the likes of yourself, you say you still want to do a couple of good movies, and perhaps take on a bit more serious roles,
Hmm.
and like, haven't dipped your toes into those waters. Like, do you kind of like have a sort of acting style that you like to like prefer doing, or is it very much kind of role based almost?
I will definitely be up for doing anything as long as I like it and I look at the
Yeah.
script. But nowadays, what I would do is what I'm trying to do anyway, is I'm trying to develop, let's say, different sides of myself, so that when I'm doing these
Mhm.
characters, there's a bit more. It's not just like an ignorant guy or an angry guy or a tough guy. I'd like to kind of develop sort of maybe softer aspects of myself so that I can dip into those things. But oh yeah, no, I'm open to doing anything, and I'm
Mhm.
interested in doing stuff that maybe feels like I haven't done it before.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm 100% open to trying anything. Sorry, I forget what was the question.
That was well, you answered that question anyway. It was about different types of roles, and
Oh yeah, yeah,
like
100%. I'm up for different types of roles. And let me see, who was I watching recently? There's a fella called Jesse Plemons, I think his
oh
name is.
yeah, Jesse Plemons, yeah.
Just the way he does stuff, I just look at him and I'm like, it's so natural and it's so casual. But he's a hero of mine, and I would love to maybe do some stuff like him. But like
Mhm.
obviously that's it takes a long time to get to that stage. But you know what? We're dipping our toes in the water. We're,
Absolutely,
we're staying
absolutely.
creative and we're staying strong. I'm on the protein as we speak,
Oh,
actually.
brilliant. That's it.
Can I get a shout out to my core, by the way?
Yeah. Sponsor Owen Colgan.
They sent me a load of stuff there the other day, so I
Oh,
was
brilliant.
happy
There you
about
go.
that. Mhm.
Happy days. And so also like in terms of, your career, you've done like a lot of stand up then in the past as well. And like every couple of years, you'll do like a big tour. And is that something that, you would have done like pre Hardy Bucks and something?
No,
No,
it's
no. So
something
was
I
that
wouldn't know.
from? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, all the creative stuff that I'm doing now probably did stem from Hardy Books, but
Oh, okay.
I do stand up now, and I'm still kind of I'm getting back into it again. I used to love it at the beginning,
Hmm.
and then for some reason I don't know what happened to me, but I fell out of love with it, and I don't know what was wrong with me. I just didn't. Maybe it was COVID and different things, but I couldn't get
Yeah.
into it. I kind of felt like I was going through the motions, and the stuff I was saying wasn't real. Didn't resonate with me. But now I'm, especially so far this year and a bit of last year, I've kind of got it back into it, and I'm doing a lot more rehearsals at home.
Yeah.
And just the excitement is back in me for
Good.
creating stand up that's like people are really enjoying. And I want to give, if I'm going to do stand up now, I want to give people something that like they're really enjoying, because I think
Yeah.
people, if they're leaving the house and they're putting on a pair of fresh underwear to come and see you, like you may as well give them a good night. So I love the stand up, and I still don't know myself, Andrew, what I want to do either. Like if it's stand up or acting, but we'll see what happens. As long as I'm creating stuff, I'll be happy.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And do you think then, with stand up there, like, and possibly a reason why, you might have fell out of love with it at the time was maybe the audience's sort of ability to not really separate, you from Buzz, for example, the actor from the
That could be
character.
it. Yeah, it could be also myself not being able to do it at times,
Oh, okay.
because I guess when I see people like over the years, that's what they'd recognize me for most. And maybe, I am living back in Mayo again. And sometimes I think that even for myself, because I feel like it's a comfort in being able to write for that character.
Yeah.
That people already know that character, that maybe that's where my writing kind of tends to go. But I'm kind of trying to break out of that the last year and a half. So even though like it's a rocky ground at the moment still, I feel like I'm touching on things that are more like real to me, as not as a character, but as a real person.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely excites me, that I'm kind of tapping into new kind of ground. Like I'm out there fracking for new information.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, it must serve as a good motivation as well to be able to just be like, okay, this is what people know me for, but here is also what I'm capable of, especially, when you look at the things like acting, stand up. But ultimately, it's like you say, it's as long as you're staying creative and just doing
That's
what
it.
it is you love.
100%, Andrew. Yeah, as long as you're staying creative, you can't really go too far wrong. And it doesn't have to be, like I would love to make, as I said to you, 2 more movies that were really well accepted. But as long as I'm doing stuff that I'm happy with, that's the main thing. But like definitely, it was probably a bit of self-sabotage over the years as well, like where you kind of like probably wasn't giving it as much as I could have given it, and maybe resting on my laurels. But now with the amount of very creative stuff that's out there and the amount of very funny stuff that's been made, especially up your way, like for example, there's a load of
Oh God, yeah.
strong comedy stuff going on up there.
It's really taken off the last
It really has taken off,
few
but like
years now.
it's well deserved. Like it's actually, the content is amazing.
Oh God, they're killing it here. Like it's just kind of
Yeah,
come out of nowhere, and especially like even in the most amateur levels as well. Like
yeah,
people who will get like lucky to get like 5 minute sets, but that's like their where they
they're all
start
in. Yeah,
off, and
yeah, because they're getting inspired by all the other lads that are doing so well. So they're like,
yeah.
but I guess they're at it like a long, long time. But still, that when you see that sort of stuff happening, and even here, like in Cork and different places in Dublin, there's a lot of good stuff happening. So that's kind of re-inspired me again. And I'm like, right, these guys are doing really well. Let's see now if I can, come back and become the comeback kid.
For sure.
This is by the way, this is the year of the horse.
The Year of the Horse, yes, that's right.
And
And you
I'm a
have
horse of a man.
yeah, and you have a show coming up in Dublin, am I right? On the 1st of May, Year of the
I do
Horse.
I've one Dublin on the 1st of May, and actually I have one up in Belfast as well.
Oh, very good.
That is on, don't quote me on this. I should know this, but it's in April, I believe April 24th, but you'll see it anyways on my social media, Instagram.
Yeah.
It's in Belfast, so that'd be nice if you come along to that, Andrew.
Oh, 100%. 100% will be. 100%.
I give you 25% off tickets.
Phenomenal.
No, I'll stick your name down. You come along to that, and we're sure we can chat more.
Oh, for sure. Would love that. Would love that. Absolutely. But yes, on that note, Owen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Behind the Camera. Thank you so much for your time and all the insights. Been an amazing conversation. Just
Thanks,
before
Andrew.
we wrap up, do you have any sort of final words of wisdom for the audience today?
Words of wisdom, Jesus. Get outside, try to grow some chives if you get a chance. Touch the land a bit, smell the fields, and don't listen to all the shit talk that happens on social media, because a lot of it's nonsense. Brilliant. But do check out my page and follow me.
Absolutely. Check out Owen Colgan.
Oh, and also I'm doing live streams on YouTube as well. So
I
do
stuff.
Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
And are you just at Owen Colgan on YouTube as well?
Owen Colgan, yeah. Yeah, I couldn't think of anything better than that.
Perfect. But that's what that's what you need. As long as it has your name attached to it, that's all that matters.
Thanks a million, Andrew.
No worries, Owen. Thank you very much. Take it easy, man. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye. Take care.
And there you have it for episode 91 of Behind the Camera. Huge thanks to Owen Colgan for his time and for a great conversation. Be sure to check out Hardy Bucks and also give Owen a follow on his socials, links in the description. Massive thank you to all patrons. Your support is truly appreciated. And as always, if you'd like to stay connected with Behind the Camera, you can also find all of my links in the description, including socials, merch, and for my book. Behind the Camera, The Journey So Far, which is out now. As always, thank you for listening, for the support, and for being part of the journey. Until next time, take care, stay creative, and I'll see you soon. But until then, peace.